And we're right on time. Now, where is our sound? I don't hear anybody.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. This is Harvey.
Oh, volume. Okay. How do I expand the volume? Volume. Hare Krishna. Anybody there?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Maharaji. Hare Krishna.
Haribol. Oh, we have, looks like outdoor event in Singachalam. Nice. And all of you in different parts of the universe. Nice to see you all. I see Mataji Usha is here. Thank you for your last email, Usha. And okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaji. Hare Krishna. Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna. Okay. And so I will say greetings from Sadhu-bhavan in Poland. We have a quite nice day today. And what better thing to do on such a day than to meet together, devotees, and talk about Krishna and Krishna consciousness, devotional service. I think we're all set up now. Let me get my music box ready. And our songbook, our online songbook. No. Oh, I had it before. Where did it go? Okay, here it is. Yeah. So I will say, Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin iti namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. And here is one more verse of Srila Rupa Goswami's Chitra Kavitvani. We read the first one last week. Here comes the second verse. Charchoru ruchiruchora ruchiro ram charachare choracharo chirachiram ruchacharur achuchurat. What does that mean? Acting like a thief, Nanda's broad-chested son, the most handsome person in the world, quickly stole the gopis' garments. His effulgence made him very attractive, and the sandal paste anointing his limbs enhanced his beauty. So this verse is all with cha and ra, these two aksharas. So it becomes char choru rochiruchora ruchiror aram chara chare chora charo chirachiram rucha charur achuchurat. It's Sanskrit tongue twister. The original tongue twisting language, perhaps, and the original tongue twisting poet. Charcha means ointment. Uru means great. Rochi, whose beauty. Ucha, broad. Uraha, whose chest. Ruchira, handsome. Aram, very. Chara achare, in the world of moving and non-moving beings. Chaura, like those of a thief. Achara, whose activities. Achirat, quickly. Chiram, the garments. Rucha, because of splendor. Charu, attractive. And achuchurat, stole. Yeah. Srila Rupa Goswami ki jai. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai. We have a song. We're continuing with Saranagati, and we're starting the next section, which is Atma Nivedana. We had a question. I think it was Usha was asking, are all the songs expressing such misery? Such sadness and so on? And the answer is no, not at all. This first part that we've gone through 7 songs was expressing a lot of lamentation because the subject was dainya, and dainya can be translated as humility, but it has all these sort of emotions that we heard about from Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Now we're starting a new section because Saranagati has 6 aspects, 6 parts. Anukulyasya sankalpa, pratikulyasya varjanam, rakshishyatiti vishvaso bhoktritve varanam tata atmanikshepha karpanye shatvidha sharanagati. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur begins, so to say, at the end of the series, according to the original verse of Sanskrit. He starts with karpanya, which he refers to as dainya. And then there's atmanikshepa, literally throwing oneself down. Atmanikshepa, kship, to throw, ni, down, nikshepa, throwing down, throwing oneself down. Atma Nivedana, same thing. It's submitting oneself completely. Bhaktivinoda Thakura is now going to have 8 songs on this subject. And at least in this first song, he still expresses some lamentation. But again, he's now turning, we can say, more positively with the feeling of submission, of submitting himself to the Lord. All right, now this song, if you have the same version that I have, or that we were given the link, I'm reasonably sure that the first word of the last line is spelled wrong. Here it says pekhahuń. It must be dekahuń. I am seeing. I don't know this pekhahuń. And then we'll see the second verse. And I checked another version. I'm assuming it's correct, but the second verse seems to be missing a first line. But it could also be that Bhaktivinoda Thakur simply wrote this way. Doesn't have to have, there's no hard and fast rules in bhakti. So there are 3 lines. Anyway, let's see what we can do with it. I think this is na koroluń Karama geyāna nāhi bhelo na koroluń Karama geyāna nāhi bhelo na seviluń charana tohār na seviluń charana tohār a-sukhe mātiyā āpanaku vañca-i a-sukhe mātiyā āpanaku vañca-i pekhahuň caudiśa āndhiyār koroluň caudiśa āndhiyār tuhuň karunā-nidān tuhuň korolun-nidān pada-pańkaje Atma samarpiluň pada-pańkaje Atma samarpiluň more kripa karo Dan more kripa koroluvida pratigya tohāra oi johi saranagata pratigya tohāra oi johi saranagata nāhi so janabdo Karama nāhi so janabo Karama sohamat duskriti gatina hera-i sohama duskriti gatina hera-i avmagam tuapara avmagam tuapara mano-ratha nishesha chodato mano-ratha nishesha chodato kabham tohār kabham tuhuń nitya-sevya tuhuń nitya-sevaka nitya-sevya tuhuń nitya-sevaka Bhaktivinoda bhava Bhaktivinoda bhava Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Rama Rama, Hare
Nitai Gaur Haribo, 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 Gor, Haribo, Nitya.
Haribol, 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 Nitagora, Haribol.
Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation: I have earned neither piety nor knowledge. Overwhelmed by sensual pleasures, I have cheated myself and now see only darkness in all directions. So, na koroluń karama. Quite often, Bhaktivinoda Thakur will add a syllable into a word. He will insert a syllable. He does this often with his own name, as we have at the end of the song. Instead of Bhaktivinoda, we get Bhaktivinoda. And this serves the purpose of what is called scansion, or getting the right number of syllables in a line of poetry or music. So here he does the same with the word karma. It becomes karama. And then geyāna would be from the Sanskrit word geyāna or jnana. In Bengali and Hindi, the JN becomes gya. So, and then he's adding this a sound, so geyāna. Na koroluń karama geyan nāhi bhelo, na seviluń charana tohār. I have not been serving your lotus feet. And once again, we get the super familiar form of the Bengali, tohār, instead of tomar, which would be the general familiar form. This is the more familiar form, the intimate form, you can say in this context. a-sukhe mātiyā, being overwhelmed by material pleasure. Jada means dull, like Jada Bharata. a-sukhe, so dull happiness. Mātiyā, āpanaku vañca-i, cheated. Vañca means cheating. Apana, myself, I've just been cheating myself. And now, pekhahuń, not pekhahuń, but pekhahuń, caudiśa āndhiyār. Caudiśa, literally 14 directions. It can indicate the whole universe, or 14 worlds, you can say. So the whole universe, I see only darkness in, oh, I'm sorry, no. Correction, caudiśa, so 4 directions. So I see only, I was thinking 14, no, it's 4 directions. āndhiyār, I see only darkness in all directions. O Lord, you are the fountainhead of all mercy. Tuhuń, not karunā-nidān. You are the nidān, I think can also mean treasure, but here translated fountainhead. I surrender myself at your lotus feet. Tua pada-pańkaje, Atma samarpiluń. So this is the theme of these 8 songs, and here he is speaking in the first person. I am offering myself to you. Samarpana would be the Sanskrit. Samarpiluń, I am offering. More kripa korobi vidān, kindly show me your compassion. More, to me, and I think this form, instead of the usual Bengali ami or amar, I think this comes from Maithili language, which has been used as a kind of poetic form in Bengal since, I don't know, maybe since the time of Lord Chaitanya or even before. Yeah, the story I heard was that some Brahmins migrated from Bengal to Mithila and were there for some time, and eventually they came back. So they picked up a lot of the local language, and it was very sweet. They liked Maithili language, and they came back to Bengal and they mixed it in. And that's where some of this comes from. Third verse, it is your promise that one who takes refuge in you will know no dangers or fear. Pratignya tohār oi. Pratignya is, we had this word before. We know the word ya, meaning to know. And pratigya comes to mean promise. To make a promise this is a pratigya. Tohār, your oi, this is your promise. Johi Saranagata, unto the one who is indeed your servant. Jo is yo, from ya in Sanskrit, relative who. Nāhi so janibo paramad. Again, we're getting an inserted syllable. It would be pramad or menace. So that person, sa, janibo, nahi, will not know madness, literally. And it's translated here as danger or fear. For a sinner like me, there is no other shelter. Soham duskriti. Duskriti is a Sanskrit word in Bhagavad Gita. Naham duskritino mudha prapadyante naradama. For such a duskriti as myself, one who is doing bad things, literally, gati na hera-i ana. There is no other shelter. Gati can mean shelter. Na hera-i ana. Hera, I think, means seeing. Ana, maybe coming, so I'm not sure. And then the last line, I beg you now for infinite grace. Ab, now, magong, I beg, tuwa, you, prasad. I'm begging you for mercy, which is translated here as infinite grace, which is nice. Then the last line, ana mano-ratha nishesha chodata kabham haubun tohār. Oh, when will I know freedom from desire and thus become yours? Mano-ratha here is being translated desire. Mano means mind, ratha means chariot. The chariot of the mind, which carries all the freight, all the different sorts of desires that come in our minds. We carry them with our minds. That is the mano-ratha. Ano mano-ratha nishesha chodata. Not quite sure of word by word meanings here. Kub is the question word, when. Ham haubun tohār. When will you make me? Ham in this case is referring to, the Hindi ham is plural of we, Nitya-seva tuhuň, nitya-sevak mui. Mui is another, I think it's another Maithili word. You are eternally to be served. So nitya-sevya, to be served always. I am your eternal servant, nitya-sevaka mui. And that is the sum of Bhaktivinoda's devotional mood. Bhaktivinoda bhava sara. Sara is essence, bhava is mood. This is the essence of Bhaktivinoda's mood. Let's see. Maybe Sugopi, do you want to correct us about any of the Bengali words?
Gati is ability.
Sorry?
Gati is ability. Gati na hera
Gati?
is ability. Like I don't have that ability.
Which line are you pointing to?
Okay. Gati is shelter, right? And mui, you said mui is me.
Yeah.
The last but one line of fourth paragraph, mui is me.
Yes. Is that wrong?
No, it's right. Me, it's me.
Muy, yeah. But I think this is not, strictly speaking, Bengali, right?
Yes, Maharaj. Even the last song wasn't pure Bengali, it was Maithili.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of things mixed. A lot of Sanskrit is there. Bhaktivinoda songs have a lot of Sanskrit also. What is this Nishesha Chodato?
Shesh. Shesh. Shesh is like the end. Shesh.
Shesha means remainder or end.
Yeah,
but
Shesha. Nihi Shesha. Mano-ratha. Like my desires. Freedom from desires. Nihi Shesha. Like, and last paragraph. I will type it down, Maharaj. I will refer. Yeah.
You can look, okay. I'm especially curious about that chodata. Chodata.
Chodata is generally like to leave, like.
To leave. Yeah.
Nihishesha chodato, like.
May these material desires leave me permanently. Maybe something like that.
I think Nishesha sometimes means leave the rest, leave everything else. It's the rest. It's leave the rest.
Leave everything else.
Yeah, take this and leave the rest. So, and Chodato is leave, yes.
Okay, thank you. All right. Yes, so again, this is the first of the 8 songs of Atma Nivedana. And it's interesting that Bhaktivinoda is, he's still lamenting. He says, I'm so, but he's also preparing. He's approaching the Lord. That's the main thing. But he's also expressing a sense of honesty, which he expressed a lot in the Dainya section, confession. But now I don't know, it seems like he's saying, so this is here I am, this is what I am, this is me with all my shortcomings, and I have no other choice but to take your shelter. And he's also reminding the Lord, this is a kind of favorite motif in this sort of song. He's reminding the Lord, you have made a promise. You have made a promise. What is the promise? One who takes refuge in you will know no dangers or fear. So you're supposed to keep your promises. And so here I am. I'm taking shelter now. So he's also expressing a kind of expectation, we might say, that the Lord is going to give shelter. I'm sure he will, because he has made this promise. Okay. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai. Hare Krishna. So, show and tell time.
So Guru Maharaj, today we have three presenters, as we said. Mataji Nandi Mukhi, then Ramananda Gopal Prabhu, and Mataji Mahananda Hladini.
Uh-huh.
So Nandi Mukhi Mataji, can you hear us? Can you unmute? Divedesha Prabhu, can you unmute, please?
He's having trouble with that. There's a button on the bottom left, perhaps. Not there. If you move the.
Hare Krishna.
Now we got it. Okay.
Okay.
Got it.
Hare Krishna.
Okay. Good connection. We're not. Yeah. The connection is not very good, apparently, with the farm. You may have to turn off your video to speed up the audio. Yeah. Okay, let's try that.
So, yes, I would like to welcome you all to Pralad's garden. I want to show you first our Pralad's cafe. We have now started doing this. We are getting regular guests here. So I'm the bowl
This audio is also not good. And besides, I understand you want to show us the garden, the Prahlad garden, and for that we need to see. For that we need to see the video.
And
No. Okay. Oh. Oh. That's I think a snack bar, sort of a snack bar tent. Oh, there's Narahari Mataji.
yes, and we have painted and for sitting very comfortable.
Oh. Now we're coming to the snack bar.
Gopi Mataji and Irina here.
Okay. Now we're going to see what's available in the snack bar. Looks good. I'll take one. Wow, cakes. Okay.
Yeah.
Mm. Oh, they're juices. Okay. And there's
Spend time
not
here and
we only get about 5% of what you're saying. But I think we get the idea. And we're very happy to see you all. And especially Narahari Maharaji. Oh, now she's gonna demonstrate.
This is Amrita. Sorry about the sound.
Yeah. Anyway, we got the idea. Thank you. Singachalam Dham Ki Jai. Okay. Thank you. Who is next?
Next is Ramananda Gopal Prabhu.
Okay. Oh, he's also at the farm. I hope
He's also the,
that doesn't mean similar bad connection. Where is he?
Devadesh Prabhu. Where is Ramananda Gopal Prabhu?
I look for Raman.
I think he's preparing. He will come back soon.
Okay, well, if he's going to be using that same connection, there could be a problem. It's not really good audio. Meanwhile, shall we go to Mahanandaladini?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Devotee.
Haribol.
Haribol. Something I wrote, so I would like to share.
Oh, okay.
First, I would like to say something about the tradition between the Hare Krishna movement and Orthodox people here in my country.
Okay.
Most of the people here, Orthodox, they follow the also 10 commands, and what
yes.
is yes, and what is interesting is in the Bible it is said that the Lord Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life, and nobody can not go to the Father except through me. And this is very nice because he tells us that Jesus Christ is pure devotee of the Lord Krishna, and without the mercy also from the spiritual father to all devotee, no one can go to the Lord Krishna if we don't have your mercy, faith, and to follow your instruction also. And it is very interesting because when I first read the Srila Prabhupada books, Perfect Answer and Perfect Questions, it's all clear. And people, when I hope all people, when they read that book, it's very simple and understanding everything that Krishna means all attractive, and that is the perfect name for the Lord, for the God. And I would like to say also that in some commands in the Orthodox people, most of them are confused because they go to the church and just listen some verse from the Bible, but they accept that like most with a fear to come, and they don't ask any questions about it. They just follow some church rules, and compared to Hare Krishna movement, and I can see and experience that from Hare Krishna movement we have books from Srila Prabhupada, so we can also ask question what is not clear to us or understanding, and we can ask and accept knowledge, because in all of the books of Srila Prabhupada everything is nicely explained. And that it's short what I want to reflect from this tradition, and compared to our movement also. Also, I would like to say something about the ISKCON, what you, Guru Maharaj, asked. What is? I just wrote something what I hope we need to change.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yes. I would like to talk about the life from town to the village, and compare with we need to change, we need our own food to grow on the land, because in this difficult time most of the people going just to escape from town to the village, but from us we also need to continue that way, try as an individual. I cannot not do so much, because many people need to do on the land, and we buy water in the town, we don't have fresh air. And on the village, I see now I'm on with mother village, I have own house in my village, so we will go there and try just to spend more time in the village. And it's time maybe for the ISKCON also, and people devoting our movement to talk, to preach, and to beginning really life, simple life like Srila Prabhupada wants from all of us, to like most of them do it now, so to have maybe garden for the beginning, and grown own food. Also, I heard that GBC is want to escape that milk from the shopping, and we need more cows, and maybe if we need to cultivate the character with no profit also, because most of us we need to build our character on each position which we are, but with no profit in the mind, because what we do, we try to do something in this life for the Krishna, and we don't know the profit, like in Bhagavad Gita is said that the profit depends on Krishna, what we need to accept, but is on that side, on spiritual side, it's eternal. It's not like materialistic, but we have lots of things, and it disappear in Krishna. When we do it for Krishna, it will never disappear. So also with plastic plate and spoon in the temple, we also need some ecological maybe to change that also. But most of them I thinking about the village. And here in my country, some people, some devotee also live more and more years in some village in Vojvodina, in Serbia, but here in Niš, there is no way. No, I just have one friend, and we go to the village, and I have a question: does we like how we can cooperate together and be stronger? To us, does it okay to association with other people who like life in nature?
Mm.
Because there is no preaching and nothing here is happening in my town, really, honestly. And
Yeah.
I would like to I live in town 20 years, but my wish is to live on the land, and I'd like to try. I like to work also on the land, so I don't know who can cooperate in this country also for that. And
Mm. Well, it's all a big subject that you have brought up,
yes,
but just a small, very short response maybe. In relation to the subject we'll be again continue to talk about is interfaith dialogue or just dialogue. You mentioned people who like to be in the country. Is it okay to associate with them? I would say yes, this could be a platform on which you could come together with others. You have this common interest, appreciation of nature. So on that basis, you can come together, you can make friends, and gradually you get to know them, they get to know you, and some exchange can go on, some dialogue, as we're calling it, is possible. So, you know, we always say, where there's a will, there's a way. So you may find some way to realize, to make it happen, your desire to be fulfilled.
okay,
Okay?
okay, thank you.
All right. Now we have just gotten message. Ramananda Gopal is online by himself. Is he ready?
Yeah.
There he is.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Haribol.
Gurudev, with the permission of the Vaishnavas, we may say something. This topic of the interreligious dialogue is actually is quite dear to matter, and we have also our programs here. And first of all, I think what we have in Germany right now is a good situation, because our GBC herself, she is quite into this interreligious dialogue. She is part of Religions for Peace since many years. I'm also part of it. And this is something what is run by the Catholic Church and is kind of what enhances interfaith communication. And so from that side, I think in Germany, we have quite a good situation. She's quite supportive and in this sense. What I see in a broader perspective and in ISKCON family is maybe not so well supportive at the moment, because I think our problem is that we identify ourselves as a religion, and then we tend to compete with all the other, what is something more. And as I understand the teachings of Srila Prabhupada, he also wanted this, that we not another sectarian religion or something that we, as a big institution. And of course, the situation where we all right now in, it's challenging for everybody, but I think also it's also a good way, because it has positive effects. For example, we never met so frequently, also so regularly actually, with our Gurudev and as a God family. And although it's just online, we know more, we learned more of each other in the last weeks than we did maybe for years. So that's, I appreciate this quite a lot. And this is a positive effect. And the other thing is, we all, of course, we all think, when will it be over and we will go back to normal? I also sometimes, tend, okay, when will we go in our cars? We have a cheap flight to India. We spend, we have good money when we go to India, because, whatever. And when we go just to the supermarket, get cheap vegetables, and when we will back to our normal life. But actually, I think maybe I don't want to be painting something black, but I think it will never be normal life again. And actually, this is what where we always prayed for. And I know Gurudev, he also gave many comments and lectures and speeches about this. We have to change our, how you call it, a logical footprint, this, what we all leave something behind, and how we deal with nature, how we deal with environment, how we deal with mother cow and father bull and all of this. And we all knew it will come one day. Actually, we lived this way of life, and we knew it will come. The Big Bang will come in our society. And I see this right now happening, and actually is something what we have to embrace, because only then we can go through this. And what has it to do with interfaith dialogue is that when we look at religions in the moment, especially the big Catholic Church, it's crumbling. And it's not so much in the mainstream media, but if we look some alternative media, then one can see that the Catholic Church at the moment faces very major problems and troubles. And if you speak with Catholics, what are not the normal believers, more like had some administrative role in the church or whatever, or they have quite some trouble. There's critics from their own side, and there's critics from outside. And I think this will be a big topic in the next month or whatever. And so many things will come up, and the Catholic Church is controlling most of the religious life around the globe, actually. And one can, whatever good or bad one finds, but she played her role, and she still plays it. But I think with the fall of the Catholic Church, I don't know if one can call it fall, but in any tradition there will be some major, problems. Maybe we have to be prepared also that something comes out with all of this, that something comes out what we see quite in our tradition, where there were problems, or where there are problems. And but this actually is a necessary step, because we can only appreciate each other if we lose our concept of our religion, our church. And then only then we can have a real dialogue. We can be in touch with each other. If we're not competing with each other, if we really associate with each other, with each other and inspire us in this way. Level down to come to some kind of, not criticizing our ISKCON, but I think we also sometimes we think we are the best and we have to teach everybody about our way of life. But then we come, ego creates ego, and in this way we never will come to a solution. When this change is coming and people or this big traditions they fall apart, then we as an ISKCON society, we could actually bring our real teachings, our understanding of Sanatana Dharma, and our actually appreciation what we had in the teachings of Srila Prabhupada for all other traditions and religions. And in this sense, we really could be very helpful in some, how to say, coming up religious dialogue. I don't know if this is a little bit too far. I mean, I try to put many thoughts now in this short time, but yeah, I don't know if somebody else has some thoughts or some clarifications on this topic. This was
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you, Ramananda Gopal. You're responding to the suggestion I made last time.
Yes.
To respond to the two questions: what do we have going for us within our society for dialogue, and what are the obstacles? So you've given us quite many points in different scopes, different dimensions, I would say. So I think you make some good points. It's interesting you're making observation about the Roman Catholic Church, that you see it as falling apart. Maybe, I don't know. I haven't been up on the news with them, but I know they go through troubles, but they have been around for 2,000 years. So they've been around for a while. Oh, before I forget, this is just to what you're doing with religion. What is it called? Religions for Peace?
Yes, Religions for Peace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you could do one thing, it would help for my purpose. I'm preparing, as I've said a few times, I give this seminar in Mayapur on the subject of interfaith dialogue. So now, just this last week, we've been advised by the organizers that everything is going to be online, and therefore we've been given some specifications. Basically, I have to reduce the length of my presentation very much for those students. But one thing I would like is if you could do a short, like you did last week, just make a video which then I can have students look at, where you're explaining, especially on the subject of meeting with families in their homes. Could you prepare something like that in the next, there's no big rush, but sometime in the next days or weeks?
Yeah. Where explain how we meet. Yeah.
Yeah, just like you did last time, but with the main focus on how you meet together in families, how that's organized.
Yeah. Okay. How long? I mean, what is the time limit?
I would say between 5 and 10 minutes.
Okay.
this will be something we'll make as a kind of supplementary material for students to look at sort of outside the time that we're online together. Okay.
Sure, would be very happy to do that service. Send you by
Yeah.
WhatsApp.
Yeah, whatever. Your point about not thinking of ourselves as just one more religion among so many religions, I think is valuable. And I think what you were trying to say is if we can just see ourselves as helping others to find their way in spiritual life, Prabhupada sometimes would say, become a better Christian, become a better Hindu, a better whatever it is you are.
Yeah.
So if we see ourselves in that perspective, I think it's very, can be very good. And I like to tell this story, my own experience. The last time we had this Vaishnav Christian dialogue in Chennai, as the discussion was going on, and it's a very nice atmosphere that's created by an Uttama Prabhu. As the discussion was going on, at one point, it was one of the Roman Catholic, he's a priest and a scholar. I forget the exact subject, but at one point he said, I don't know if I really go along with the church teaching on this point. And it was, and we all laughed and we all relaxed. And what I saw happen was a sort of major turn in the atmosphere was already very nice and relaxed, but it became nicer and more relaxed. Because in effect, what he was saying is, I'm a person, I'm an individual, and I have my understanding, I'm on my individual journey of spiritual life. And so similarly, all of us are on our individual journeys of spiritual life. So to the extent that we don't feel overly tied to representing an institution, the more effectively we can communicate in such a forum. And it doesn't really compromise us because everyone understands, just like this gentleman, it's not like we all, after this, thought, oh, well, then he's not really a member of the Roman Catholic Church. No, we respect him as a member and also a representative in some sense. So it's so similarly, we will continue to be seen as devotee, as Vaishnava, but we can also be ourselves.
That's very nice. We should be servants even in this field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Very good point. Yeah, I
Okay.
didn't want to sound too dark or whatever. It was just yeah, whatever. It's fine. Thank you.
Too dark. Well, sometimes, yes. Whether, let's see, Param raised the question, was it normal before?
No, of course not.
So what kind of normal are we talking about? Yes. Yeah, we see, devotee means we see opportunity. A devotee of a Krishna Bhakta understands that there's never obstacles to devotional service, which means if we can't do service in one way, we can find another way to do it. I was just reading on ISKCON News, and you can all read the same article there. If you search ISKCON News, you'll find. There's a news item about Ratha Yatra in Toronto. They had a 12-day virtual Ratha Yatra. And one thing they said the Toronto Ratha Yatra in quote unquote normal times is the largest Ratha Yatra in the Western world, bigger than even London, which is, it's quite big. They say about 5,000 people take part in the procession. It's along a street which is said to be the longest street in the world, in a city, I guess. And then where they set up exhibits and so on, and prasadam, some 40,000 people come. Well, they couldn't do that this year, so they put everything online over a 12-day period. You can read the details of how they did it. But the point I want to make is that they comment at the end that they found that this brought out opportunity for connections which were not there previously. The online platform made it possible for connections because they had devotees from all over the world taking part, leading kirtans and so on. So, yeah. Somebody's microphone just came on and went off. Okay. Okay, Hare Krishna, thank you all. Shall we continue our seminar on dialogical Vaishnavism?
Yes, Guru Maharaj.
Okay, here we go. We're gonna share screen. Got mixed up here. No, this way. Okay. Okay, that's not what I wanted to show. Ooh, okay. Okay, but dialogical Vaishnavism, extending the connection. We were our discussion was, our last discussion was on the 10 Commandments of the Hebrew Bible. As we heard from Mahananda Ladini, this is considered an essential principle or practice in the Orthodox Christian tradition and others. And I was saying I learned it myself. We had to memorize when I was a child. why do I have this image here? Sometimes I ask students to see an image and then supply a caption, to supply some words, their own words of explanation. The official name of this drawing is Progressive Laugh, but you could perhaps find your own label for this image. Anyway, I won't linger on this, but I thought it's just a quite interesting image. Sugopi says they're becoming more joyful. Yes, progressive laugh. All right, today I want to, for some of you, this is going to be review, perhaps for all of you, because since quite several years, I have been giving this seminar that I call Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. And I'm putting this here to place it in the context of dialogue, because we all have something going on in our minds, a kind of dialogue, an inner dialogue. And this inner dialogue is sometimes very nice, but sometimes it can be very disturbing. And the disturbance usually has to do with our emotions. So I want to review this this presentation, which, as I've mentioned, which I mentioned here at the bottom, is inspired by Bhagavad Gita and what is called the Sedona method. That's something else you could look up on the internet if you're interested. This is a kind of self-help method for dealing especially with emotions, but all kinds of situations and concerns. This is a kind of a process which I would say can facilitate working out difficulties, or we may just say enhancing for us, our spiritual lives in substantial ways. I have applied some of the ideas of the Sedona method with what I would say is the real basis that we find in Bhagavad Gita. And I call this seminar within a seminar, Shanti, 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 because the general aim of this practice, of this method, is to bring ourselves up to a platform of Shanta, which is then, I argue, the springboard from which the higher levels of devotion can be reached. So you could say that's my basic argument, and the question is how to get there, and therefore how to deal with emotions which seem to become obstacles. So I'm doing this in a very compressed, concentrated way. Sometimes I've held seminars over a period of days, and we do it in a workshop manner to really practice, because this is a practice. It's not just an intellectual engagement, but it's a proper practice, a procedure, which I find personally to be helpful for myself. And several devotees that I have presented this to have said that they have also found it helpful. And so first, to see what the idea is, we get a typology of emotions. We're getting a list of types of emotion. On the left side of the screen, you'll see, starting from the bottom, apathy, grief, fear, desire, anger, pride, courage, acceptance, and finally peace. Each one of these terms you can, of course, translate into your own languages, and you can see that each one of them will have a variety of emotions associated with them, which may have their own terms. We may have very mild form, for example, of grief. We might feel regret, and that could be a form of grief. Oh, I feel bad that I did this or did that, or didn't do this or didn't do that. That would be perhaps a mild form of grief. And we can think, I won't spend time, but we can think of stronger and weaker forms of each of these, we could say, constellations of emotion. Now, the order of this list, starting at the bottom, is significant. At the very bottom is apathy, and the mantra, you could say, that goes with the feeling of apathy is, I can't do it. I cannot do it. So it's a feeling of helplessness. There can also be another mantra that goes with this, I don't care. I don't care, and therefore I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not going to engage. I just don't care. It doesn't apply to me, or whatever it is, whether it's a person or a situation. But it's basically a sense of helplessness, the lack of power. And with each of the emotions moving up from there, up to grief, then to fear, then to desire, anger, and pride, especially these first six, we're getting more and more power, more energy. And we're getting more illumination. And so one application we can put to this from Bhagavad Gita very quickly is that the three constellations on the bottom, apathy, grief, and fear, we could, just very roughly speaking, associate these with tamoguna. Then the next three we could associate very roughly with rajaguna, desire, anger, and pride. And then the top three, of course, we can associate roughly with courage, acceptance, and peace. We can associate sattva guna. Now, one point to remember is that none of these emotions are in and of themselves necessarily bad in their place. Grief, for example, we feel grief at the loss of a dear one. If someone dies, naturally we feel grief, and that grief serves a purpose. It serves several purposes, but I won't go into that just now. Fear serves a purpose, especially when there is real danger. If we are in the proximity of a poisonous snake, the appropriate feeling is fear, because that fear will ignite adrenaline in our system, and we will turn around and run very quickly, and in this way protect ourselves. So that fear is healthy fear. Now, if we take each of these emotions, however, and put them into inappropriate situations, then they become a problem. And we could say the general problem that we have is that we have a tendency to hold on to an emotion which was valuable at one time and which now is not helping us. In fact, becomes an obstacle for us. So we want to understand, we want first of all to be able to identify. We want to be able to recognize when we have a certain sort of emotion, and just without judging that emotion, recognize that it's there. Often we don't even allow ourselves to recognize an emotion when it's there. And that avoidance of an emotion, that non-recognition becomes suppression. When we suppress an emotion, it's not going to disappear, it's going to manifest in other ways. And it can manifest in physical disease, it can manifest in mental disease, mental disturbance of all kinds. So suppression doesn't help us. And also expression may also not help us. So the usual case is anger. We may feel anger, and the expression of that anger could be a problem for various reasons. It could be because we are so angry that we cannot appropriately express what we want to change, maybe something in another person's behavior, and we may compound the problem in our expression. There may be various social reasons why it's just inappropriate to express our anger. We may feel like screaming, but to scream is not going to fit into our social circumstance, and so on. And so what this technique is about is something. It's a third option. It's not suppression, and it's not expression. It's release. It's letting go. It's practicing genuine detachment. We hear all the time that detachment in spiritual life is a good thing, and we usually associate this with detachment from physical things, from possessions, from objects, or maybe detachment from persons. We don't usually think of detachment from emotions, and we don't think that because we identify so strongly with emotions, we think we are these emotions. And therefore, we don't want to let go of the emotion because we think if I let go of this emotion, I will be letting go of myself. I will be losing my identity if I don't, if I just let go, if I drop this emotion, which is preoccupying me about this other person or whatever. If I just let it go, then I'm losing myself, aren't I? Possibly not. Now, it can be also very helpful to reflect as we notice our emotions when they arise, to then ask ourselves, what is it that's behind the emotion? And what we may find is a predominance of one of these three, what we're calling visceral needs. Visceral means in the bones, in the body, like a deep down sense of need. Basically, we all have this sense of a need for approval. We all have a sense of need to control, and we all have a sense of need for security. And usually these are not isolated, but some combination of these are desirable for us. But it also happens that we sometimes have a feeling of the need for the opposite of these. If we are feeling rebellious, then we don't want approval. We want to be rejected. Maybe because we want approval by someone else, some other group. Sometimes we don't want to be in control. We want others to take control. Maybe a lot of time we want others to make the decision, whatever it is. Somebody asks us, shall we do this or that? We say, you decide. Sometimes we don't want security. In fact, we can say the opposite of the desire for security is maybe not danger, but adventure. We get up in the morning because we are anticipating a new day where some surprises happen, and maybe some feeling of uncertainty comes, which is also enlivening. We experience something new that we haven't had before. So when we have these emotions, we can then ask ourselves, all right, what is it that's behind this? What is the visceral need behind this? And when we identify a sort of dominant need that we feel, then we can start to ask ourselves a very, very simple question. And the question is, could I just for now let this go? this seems too simple. It's kind of like the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. When people say, when we tell people just chant this Maha Mantra and your life will be sublime, people say, no, that's too simple. So could I, just for now, let this go? Now, this little phrase, just for now, is a bit of a device. In some sense, we may say to trick the mind, because of our tendency to want to hold on to whatever is the feeling, the emotion. The mind's resistance will say, no, I can't let this go. Well, could you just let it go for now, just for 5 minutes? So then we may say, oh, well, maybe for 5 minutes I can let it go. That's easier than just, could I let this go forever and ever and ever? And by asking this question, we are opening ourselves to the possibility to let go of whatever it is. To help us to ask this question, and the question, could I let this go, has two possible answers, either yes or no. And either answer is legitimate. We don't have to feel that, no, I must say, yes, I can let this go. No, the answer may be, no, I cannot let this go. That's okay. Because later on, you can ask yourself again the same question. Could I now just let this go, just for now? And you can also ask yourself, would I let this go? Would I, if I were given the opportunity, if I saw the value of letting this go, would I let it go? Yeah, if I saw the value of it, I would let it go. So that's bringing in a little of our buddhi, our intelligence. And then this question, when, is the challenge aspect. Okay, you're thinking about letting this go, so when are you going to do it? You've been holding on to this feeling, this, okay, maybe it's some sort of resentment we feel against a particular person. You've been holding on to that feeling of resentment against such and such for the last 10 years. When are you going to let this go? And with the question when is also the implication that there will be a time that I'm letting it go. It's no longer if I will let it go, it's when will I let it go? And of course, it's urging us to let it go sooner rather than later. So you see, the basic idea here is detachment, which is a function of intelligence. Intelligence is helping us to understand our real situation in the world. We are here temporarily. This body is temporary. Our situations that we find ourselves in, it's all temporary. This is all coming from intelligence. And when we apply this in this slightly, we can say, friendly, challenging way to ourselves, we're not being imposed on by someone else. If someone else would ask you, can you let this go? We might immediately feel defensive. Now, this is another point, though. As we become a little skilled in this technique, you can notice yourself feeling resistance, defensiveness, and then you can ask yourself, could I let go, just for now, of this defensiveness, of this resistance? And what is it behind this resistance? What is it that I need? Is it approval? Is it a sense of control? Is it a sense of protection, security? And here we can get a bit more help from Bhagavad Gita. Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, verse number 35, famously replies to Arjuna's doubt, his question about controlling the mind. His answer to Arjuna is basically two words, abhyasa and vairagya. Abhyasena tu konteya vairagyena cha grihyate. He says it's difficult to control the mind, but it can be done. And how can it be done? It can be done by this combination of two things. Abhyasa means practice, and vairagya, it's the opposite of raga, which is attachment. Vairagya, detachment. By the combination of these two, we can control the mind. And in this case, we're speaking about controlling or overcoming or moving on from emotional blocks, emotional obstacles. So this is practice and detachment, and in this so-called method, the practice side, it begins with, rather than resisting the emotion, we notice the emotion. We notice, we feel the grief, we feel the apathy, we feel the anger. And we allow it to be what it is and examine it for what it is. And as we examine that feeling and all the associations with that feeling, how does it feel in the body? How does it feel in the stomach? How does it feel in the chest region, in the heart? Perhaps in the clenched fists if we're angry, and so on. Becoming aware of all that, and then comes the question, and this is the detachment part: could I let this go? Okay, that was that was my mini lesson on inner dialogue. I almost said inner interfaith dialogue. Yeah, maybe there is a conflict within ourselves about our faith, which we may be wrestling with doubts. That is very much possible. So one way, I'm not saying this is the only way, but I think it can be helpful. It takes practice, and the best practice I found is with the least strong emotions. When you are feeling slightly annoyed, Because whatever, fill in the blank, think of something that makes you slightly annoyed. Maybe you're annoyed at yourself because you got up later than you intended to get up in the morning. You got up a half an hour later or an hour later, and so you feel annoyed with yourself. It's a kind of anger. But, you know, it's not the end. It's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the day. It's still the beginning of the day. So it's not terribly serious. So you can take that emotion, that feeling of annoyance, and now that you're up and you're in the shower, you can be thinking, what is that feeling? How does that feel? Why is that there? And then you can ask yourself, could I let this go? Now, at this point, you may say, well, I do this all the time. I mean, it's not like I carry around these negative feelings with me all the time. You know, I'm an adult. I don't carry resentments with me. I don't, you know, I'm not a small child who cries when somebody takes my toys away. But in general, that may well be the case, and it may be the case that some emotions we hold on to, we allow to linger, and these go unprocessed and therefore eventually problematic. Again, the idea is to move ourselves up. We want to go beyond pride. We always hear that spiritual life is about humility. So pride may come when we feel we have accomplished something and we want to tell the world, and that's okay, but then at some point we should also let that go. We want to move up into courage, acceptance, and peace. And these three we can think of as going very much together, supporting each other in the mode of goodness. And when we experience these feelings, we can also ask ourselves, could I let this go? Because we understand the mode of goodness is also conditioning. It's also conditioned life. Can we let go of feelings of happiness? Can we let go of, you know, all the positive feelings that we have when it's appropriate to let them go? And when we can do that, then we're starting to understand what Krishna is talking about in the Gita when he's speaking about being equiposed in success and failure, happiness, distress, and so on. Hare Krishna, I think that's pretty much what I want to say for today. Let's see. Oh, Divyambara is raising her hand. So I'm going to get out of this. No, I have to go this way.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hare Krishna.
Haribo. Thank
New
you.
York Yatra Ki Jai.
Jai. I've heard you explain this several times, and it's really starting to sink into me. I feel ready to practice this actually right now, so thank you for that. I have a couple of questions. first of all, I find that the application of if we don't recognize the emotions first, be aware of them, and then try to apply detachment, then detachment becomes misapplied. So it becomes kind of an artificial detachment, and that leads to the suppression of emotions.
Yes.
Would you like to
I
elaborate?
agree. I agree. That's why this is also, I think, a matter of practice to sort of refine our ability to identify the emotion, whatever it is, when we experience it. Because that helps us to put it into perspective, to be able to deal with. It's the beginning of the process of taming that emotion, so that we can let it go, so that we can invite it to go out the door. If we have trouble identifying the emotion, it can be like a ghost that sort of spooks around us, and we can't really see it, we can't really locate it to even be clearly aware that it's present, to be invited to leave.
Yeah, that can be really hard for some people to really get in touch with our emotions. So, so I find on the other side, another question leading to another question is, like, to me, my life is so fast, goes so fast sometimes that I experience the emotion and I don't even have to take the time to process it. So that's something that I need to practice more. But what I find is very helpful. Like you mentioned, how if somebody else tells you, can you let it go now, for the time being, we may be defensive. But in my case, with my husband, who is a very good reflection of my emotions, he would tell me, can you let it go? And I find this very helpful. So maybe for some of us, it will be helpful if we're not able to do it ourselves fully, to have a good friend or a partner or a spouse, whoever is closer to us, and actually ask them, when you see me very emotional, would you help me process this, and ask me, could you let it go for now? Just for
Yes, very good point. And as I was, while I was saying that when someone else asks us to let something go, we may resist. While I was saying that, I was thinking, well, not necessarily. If one has a good friend or a spouse, someone very close, then indeed that can be a very powerful way of dealing with it. So, yeah, well, as the saying goes, whatever works. So in your case, you and your husband are very well tuned into each other. And yes, you give him that license, so to say, and you request him explicitly. So that can work. That can be very powerful, of course.
Thank you.
That was more of a comment than a question. 2 comments than questions, but very good, helpful. Maybe sometime we could do, a proper. I don't know if this would work online. It might work. We could do a seminar just focusing on this whole subject. We might try that sometime. Is that a good idea? I don't know.
I think so, because as you pointed out, our suppressed or emotions become a real obstacle in our spiritual life, and it can lead to a lot of problems in our relationships, in our own health. So that would be extremely helpful, Guru Maharaj.
And what I'm suggesting also is, again, in the context of interfaith dialogue, or more broadly dialogue, unless we have kind of sorted out our own emotions and gotten the dialogue in our heads worked out, in a good way, that's going to be an obstacle to dialogue. It's going to be an obstacle to communicating with others. It's going to be making, more fences than gates and windows. Param Damananda.
Yeah, I mean, I would like just to add to it when
You'll have to speak extremely slowly because the audio is not so good. Oops, now we don't hear you at all. Now we hear a lot of background noise.
Oh, this is yes, I think that what has been discussed today, and Rama and we have also else we talked about. I think that the emotion and inner dialogue is conditioned by the environment. From my own experiences, that I'm rarely happy anywhere else than in nature. So the time that the younger I'm going to say is fast time that people are living and thinking and feeling is also artificial. It's a technological time. So we are living in this technological context, which our teachings, did not comment on or very much considering. So I think that there is also need to recontextualize, some of the ideas in context of technology and modernity. And this method of Shanti is good, and we know that it does not often work, and we need somebody else, partner, really, nature, whatever, we let go. So, I would recommend to everyone to let go of the environment which causes these problems.
Param, I'm getting a message, and it's confirming my experience that your audio is so bad that we actually don't hear what you're saying. Hare Krishna. I'm sure you're making a very good point. The problem is, I don't know what you have there, but there's a lot of background noise. So I think, anyway, our time is very short. And yeah, we're getting the suggestion that you write down your point.
Well, that will be a book.
Yeah, it's still not good. So thank you. And maybe you can write a note and we can share it next time. Sorry. Okay, there's so many other comments here. Let's see, I should go back. Okay, Avadhuta Rai is asking, what's the red line? for allowing emotions to overpower us, how to use them or analyze them for advancement rather than they degrade us. This is, of course, a matter of expertise. As we as our intelligence becomes sharper, we can see how an emotion may be used in Krishna's service. The standard example is Hanuman's anger, of course, or Arjuna's anger. But the broader point I want to make is, of course, all of devotional life is about engaging everything, including our emotions, or we might want to say starting with our emotions. As to the extent that we're, Prabhupada would like to say dovetailing, to the extent we're dovetailing our emotions in Krishna's service, that is the perfection also of detachment, of letting them go, because we're letting them go toward their source. We're offering them, in effect, we're offering them to Krishna. However negative we may feel an emotion is, this is what Bhaktivinoda Thakura is doing when he's offering Dainya prayers and Atma Nivedana prayers. He's saying, here I am with all my faults. I'm placing myself at your lotus feet. So in that sense, we may not have to worry too much about red line or green line or whatever, but the mode of goodness, this idea of sattva guna, this I think is mapped helpfully in this particular scheme of these 9 categories of emotion, to sort of see which direction is going to be beneficial to be in the mode of goodness. It's going somewhere in that field, we can expect to see a sense of courage, which is the strong sense, I can do this, I can serve Krishna, I can take on this responsibility, and so on. And then acceptance is very much the opposite of apathy. Apathy is throwing up your hands and saying, I can't do anything. Acceptance is allowing the world to be as it is, and despite the way the world is, acting for Krishna, serving Krishna. Instead of making excuses, the world is the way it is, and therefore I cannot, or we cannot, whatever it is. No, despite my family situation, maybe my family situation is not so ideal. Accepting it, this is where Krishna has me now. Let me now serve Krishna in this situation to my best ability. Okay. We're already over time now. Some other nice questions and possible points of discussion here. I don't know how to save these. We could possibly carry them to the next time. I don't want to take more time. I also have something else coming up. But I'll say for now, thank you all very much. We even see Kaveri here from Boston. And all of you who are joining us, giving your time, I appreciate it very much. Yes. And most of this is kind of one way, so I do want to again encourage others of you and do a little show and tell, if you like, anything in relation to something we're talking about or something else, gardening, or your experience chanting Hare Krishna, or something to do with being locked down. Yeah, whatever it is. Hare Krishna, thank you all very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Gaurangas, thank you.
Hare Krishna, Rasudadi Hare Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Nice to see you.
You wanted that I comment something?
Yes.
I didn't understand, sorry.
But no, because I thought that you have a lot to say about the topic, about this interfaith dialogue and situation in general in the yatra and so on. So I mean, you're one of the best persons to speak.
I'm not sure about that. Sorry, maybe you missed me for someone else. Sorry, I'm interfaith. No, not so much. Sorry. Guru Maharaj told that I'm Babaji, so I'm not into interfaith. Sorry.
Nivedana, Prabhu, you're here as well. Nice to see you.
But maybe next time, let's see. Maybe I can say something about what I already told last time or 2 weeks ago, that about book publishing, some news, something like that.
Yes,
Let's see.
It's very inspiring. Please prepare for next Saturday.
Inspire your brothers and sisters maybe to include them into service, something like that.
Sure. You're welcome.
Thank you. I have to go. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Ramananda Gopal Prabhu. How is Lord Nrsimhadev?
Well, he's always fine. You are part of the darshan group. You get the pictures.